it is my favorite time of the year, and that is time to set up my next reading journal. I am going to be using this beautiful square Moonlit Melody dot grid notebook by Tifosi. It has gorgeous dark muted green vegan leather cover and beautiful gold and red foiling and golden edges, of course. When I saw this notebook for the first time, I immediately knew that this would have to be my reading journal for 2026. And it was quite popular because it got sold out so fast. And I truly thought I have missed out on the most amazing notebook. But thankfully, they brought it back, and guys, I don't think I have ever bought something so fast in my life. I simply had to have it. Tifosi had really saved me by starting to produce square notebooks. They are stunning and affordable, and you can very easily get free shipping. This is not sponsored, guys. I truly adore their notebooks, and you will see more of them on my channel in 2026. I do love my current reading journal, but it has not enough pages, and I had to pay as much for the shipping as was the cost of the notebook itself. And that hurt, I am not going to lie. This is no shade on the seller. Shipping prices just had gone extremely high in the last few years. Okay, while I was babbling, you watched me work on the cover page. This was the page I was most scared to work on because it is the first thing you see when you open the journal. I know it is just a paper and I could redo this, but the pressure was there, self-imposed pressure. Of course, because I want to enjoy looking at my journal for the next 12 months. And of course, it is a big plus if you guys like it as well. My 2025 reading journal cover page was the best one I have ever made, and I knew it would be hard to beat. And to be honest, I do not think I did it this time, but it is still cute, right? As the main sticker or as the focus point, I chose these fairies on a branch sticker mostly because while they were in the color scheme I chose for this whole setup, the big black circle in the background was not really fitting in with the rest, but I still really wanted to use it. The purple striped background I made in Canva. I was not sure what to put there, and this seemed to be simple and easy solution. I also put the reading journal title on the background itself, and I can't believe I got it right on the first try. That almost never happens. After I glued in the purple stripes on the page, I put the sticker in the middle, and I also added this flowery vines washi tape around the edges. And honestly, I cannot decide if I like it there or not. The page felt empty otherwise, but I am not sure. Maybe if I put the washi tape on the white background, so it would be more contrasting. I don't know. Let me know what do you think. On the left side, I made a pocket using the same purple background, but this time I printed it without the text, of course. And I was so confused while working on this page. Even when I was basically copying what I did in my current reading journal, I could not figure out whether I was doing it right and whether I was cutting the right page. Thankfully, it turned out I did. Phew. For the background of this pocket, I went through my paper collection, and while there were some cute options, when I saw this paper and how it looks next to the purple, it was an easy choice. The whole pocket page now looks like a wall in a granny's house, and I am here for that vibe. Cover page took me roughly 7 minutes to finish, and the pocket another 13. This, of course, does not include the countless brainstorming sessions, researching, planning, choosing stationery, none of that. I do like to tell you the time I spent on each page in these big setup videos because while it looks so quick and easy on the screen, it takes way longer than you expect. I like to be real with you, and I want you to know that taking a lot of time on a page is totally normal, and you should not feel bad about it because, yeah, it takes time. There are pages or spreads that took me almost an hour to finish, and that is a lot of time. We have a lot to set up in this journal, so much so that there will be a part 2 next week, but more about that later. Now I am setting up the reading goal spread. This one is the perfect representation of how the rest of this setup will look like. My main inspiration were the Flowery Vines washi tapes by Marigona Sully. When I saw this, it was exactly like with the notebook. I simply knew this would have to be in my life in 2026. So I bought those washi tapes as well as lots of stickers and other stationery that would fit the aesthetic, which was not that hard because Marigona has her recognizable style, and that's why most of this setup I will be using her stationery. There will be few things here and there from other artists like Izobova or Ikigai Papir and others, of course, but the majority of the pages will be this dreamy, cozy, fantasy witches theme. Maybe slightly cottagecore, you will see. And I have to say this, guys, I knew that I will want to use a lot of stationery for this setup. That's why I saved money so I could buy all of this stationery. It is not talked enough about, I think, in journaling community, but it is what it is, and I am not ashamed to admit that I need to save to buy something. I am doing the same layout here as I did last time. I put as many 3x3 boxes on the page as possible while going around all the decorations. I had no idea exactly how many boxes would fit in here. Turns out to be 91, which is quite a number, and who knows how many books I will read next year. It might be 10, but it also might be 100. I am currently on book 64 for 2025, and last year I read 101. I truly never know how the year will go, but I do like to set up my yearly reading goal, and for 2026 I am going to set the same goal as I have now, and that is 53 books, so 1 book a week. It seems doable and it does not make me stressed. So while I do have 91 boxes here, I put the transparent sticky dot on the number 53 to make it stand out and easily seen, so I would be less overwhelmed when looking at this spread. I might not reach this goal, and that is also completely fine. I am not going to beat myself over it because reading is a hobby, not a chore, and I want it to stay like that. On top of the boxes on the right side, I do have 12 smaller boxes, and these are there for me to color in with the marker I chose for that month. I was not sure whether to go with coloring month by month as I am doing this year, or I saw people coloring this based on rating or genre, and I will incorporate these in later pages, so I am sticking with the monthly sections in here. Of course, I can't forget to mention the choice of using purple pen for these boxes. It looks so much better than I could hope for, and the spread looks so dreamy and magical thanks to that. I am not sure how it will look at the end of the year, how the markers I put on top of that will change the color, so for the rest of the setup I am using black pen, but this is a vibe. This whole spread took 33 minutes to set up. Of course, the majority of this time was spent on making all of these boxes, but I consider that time well spent because that turned out beautiful and I did not make a single mistake while working on this page, and that is honestly unbelievable. Next is a spread where I will put book covers of all books I will read in 2026. On the top of this spread, I am using the one and only tape that inspired this whole setup. After I put the tape on the page, I have realized I needed to make the Dutch door first. And while I could simply glue the part with the washi tape to the following page, as I was doing for my current journal, it tends to buckle up a bit between pages. So I simply lifted the tape, cut that strip of the page off and put the tape back. And you would never know. I do currently have a separate list where I write down every book I finish during the year with ratings and whether it was audiobook or ebook or physical read and some other statistics as well. And after that, the next spread is for me to put there a book cover for every book I finish. And after months of using these two spreads, I find them redundant because it is the same information on both spreads with some statistics added in one of them. And honestly, I have realized I do not care about stats being on that particular page, except maybe the ratings. So for 2026, I am going to have only a spread with book covers in my journal because, as I said multiple times in my reading journal videos, that spread has become one of my favorite spreads ever. So of course I want to keep it. As a decoration, I'm using these adorable cats with wings in the corners of the pages, but that's about it because these spreads will get quite busy with all book covers added in. I am doing a small corner marks to indicate where each book cover will go. I went back and forth a lot trying to decide how big or small these covers should be to preserve the ratio of the cover, and so I would not need to cut off part of it to fit in here, and I ended up deciding on a space that is 4 boxes wide and 6 boxes tall. That should be 2 by 3 centimeters, and that is quite small, but this was the best ratio to fill these pages nicely while fitting a large number of book covers on one page. This way it is possible to fit 28 of them on one page, but of course the decoration fills up some of those spaces, so in the end I am able to have 53 book covers on the first spread. That is exactly my reading goal, and that was totally not planned. I have just realized this. And then I have another 52 cover spaces on the following spread, so 105 in total. I did not have an exact number in mind, but I wanted to fit here at least 91 book covers, so the same number as there are boxes on the previous spread. There will be a blank 5-star rating sticker under each book cover. While I did buy star rating stickers to use on this spread, they turned out to be way too big, and while I could use those, the whole spread would look kind of funky, so I made my own. I just put a bunch of blank 5-star designs under each other, sized them down to be 2 centimeters long so they would fit right under the book cover, and then I printed them out, and they are so tiny. After I cut multiple strips of these, I have realized I printed them on the wrong side of the sticker paper. Yeah, that happens more often than I would like to admit. But these now pre-cut strips of sticker paper will become very handy for covering up my mistakes later. So I printed this again. This time I made triple sure I was printing on the right side. And instead of cutting these tiny strips with scissors, I tried to basically make my own sticker sheet, and I used X-Acto knife to cut around each sticker. I guess you can call this a hack, and it is especially easy to do with things like this, since I needed to cut only straight lines. I did cut through the paper multiple times. I still need to get better at using the knife and figure out the pressure I need to use, but this strategy worked quite well. And now I only need to unpeel those tiny stickers and put them under every single one of those 105 spaces prepared for book covers. I could maybe add these star stickers during the year as I put each book cover down, but I wanted to have these prepared in advance, so I won't need to faff with that later. Also, the pages look so much cuter like that. The first spread took 32 minutes to make, and the second one only 15, since all the decoration was already done and I had the exact layout figured out. Onto the spread number 3, and here will be my yearly reading statistics. I love when I can compare my reading stats month to month to see which months I read the most or the least, or when I read the most enjoyable books. And when I can see the full numbers at the end of the year, and this spread helps me to stay on top of that. Thankfully, I did the most of brainstorming for this spread last year, and it had worked really well for me so far. So this time I am simply copying most of these sections. I actually did an amazing job last year when setting up my now current reading journal, because this year I could either use the same layouts or do only minor adjustments, which was such a big time saver. I am still adding some new layouts this year, but I remember I spent around 50 hours last year only on brainstorming and figuring out all of my layouts, and this year it was considerably less, maybe 20 or 30 hours. It is still a lot, and I did not time it exactly, but yeah, I have to pat myself on the back for doing a really good job last year. That's maybe why my 2025 reading journal turned out to be my favorite journal I have ever made, and I will do a full flip through of it after the year ends, so if you don't want to miss that, please consider subscribing if you are not already. This is very big and very visually uninteresting table, so I am going to go crazy and put this bookshelves washi tape everywhere that is not the table, just as I did for my current reading journal. This washi tape is so much busier, so the page might be looking slightly overwhelming, but guys, I like it a lot. And it is quite easy to do, but maybe a bit time consuming. This full spread, so both pages together, took 47 minutes to finish, the longest time so far, but it took some time to layer the tape so it would fill the whole page nicely from top to bottom, and then to cut around all the edges of the table. Then I did the second line highlights to make the table easier to use, and I wrote in all the statistics sections I'm going to track. Lastly, I decided to stamp all of the months in. It is no surprise this spread took as long as it did. As for the sections, they are probably not readable on camera, so I am just going to tell you. First, there is a list of all the months, of course. Then there is a section for number of books finished. Then number of pages read physically or digitally. Next section is for me to write down minutes I spent listening to audiobooks. Then I have a section called pages overall, and for this one I sum up the number of pages read with my eyes with time spent on audiobooks, where I convert those minutes into pages. I usually find out how many pages does the printed copy have and use those numbers. It is mostly a guesstimate, since there are always multiple copies with various page numbers, but I do my best to go with the most common one. Then from this number I can figure out my average book length and average pages read per day. Onto the next page, I will note down how many audiobooks, ebooks or physical books I read, and the last big section is for a rating. This is slightly different from what I have in my current journal, because this time I have half stars for all ratings. There is also a DNF section, and then what is maybe unique for my rating, I have 4.75 stars section, and that is for books that could have been 5 stars, but there was that tiny little thing that kept bothering me. I understand most people use 4.5 star rating for that, but that's quite different in my mind. I can't explain it, but it just works for my brain. And the last section is there for the average rating. There is a separate row under the whole table, and that is for me to fill out at the end of the year, where I will sum up all 12 months and put all that data in there. I know reading statistics is not for everybody. Some people might find it overwhelming or uninteresting, and that is totally fine. You do not need to have this in your reading journal or any other spreads I am making today. Heck, you do not need a reading journal at all if you don't want one. I am going above and beyond because this is something that brings me joy, and I love when I can go over all of these spreads and fill them in after the month is over. I simply hope to bring you inspiration if you need some, or entertainment, maybe a voice in the background if you do not like to be alone with your thoughts. Same girl, same. Anywho, let's flip to another page, and this will be something new, something I did not have in my journal yet. There will be 2 trackers, one on each page, and they will look exactly the same. So I am decorating them as one spread with the same washi tape and dragon stickers. I am placing in the decoration first, that way I can later put the boxes for the tracker around that. I have had few color versions of the titles prepared for these trackers because before printing those I was not sure what decoration would be used on these pages. Eventually I went with the green title for the genre tracker on the left and purple for the books by length tracker on the right page. And those are exactly what they sound like. I am drawing lots of small boxes on each of these pages, and I will be coloring them in during the year based on the books I will be reading. Each of these small boxes is 3 squares wide and 1 square tall, and I could fit quite a lot on one page. I was again hoping to have 80 to 90 boxes on one page, just so it would roughly match the reading goal spread we set up first. I am starting with the genre tracker, and before I do vertical lines for all of those boxes, I am adding in the key at the bottom of the page, just so I would know how much space it takes up and if there is some space left for more tracking boxes. My favorite genre to read is fantasy, but I am trying to branch out a little, so I put an array of genres in here. Except fantasy, there is sci-fi, classics, non-fiction, mystery, horror, thriller, romance, memoir, manga or webtoon, then short story or poems, and the last section is for other genres, because I have no idea what I will read. With the key done, it is time to do all vertical lines for these boxes, and I am not going to lie, this was so difficult because I was constantly getting lost between all of these lines, but I managed to do it with only one mistake, I think. I maybe could have spent a bit more time on these and make them neater, but I knew I would need to make 3 more pages like this, and I was not looking forward to that. But I really like the end result, and I am sure I will love coloring these boxes in. I was undecided whether I could color in one box with only one color, and then if the book had multiple genres, I should color in multiple boxes, but after spending some time on this, I have realized it's not the best idea because then it would get filled in very quickly and all the other trackers wouldn't match. So because there are technically 3 small sections in each outline box, I will color in up to 3 genres in each box, depending on the book of course, and one box would represent one book. I have made this explanation unnecessarily convoluted, but I do hope you understand. On the right side, I will color in boxes based on the number of pages of each book. Again, one box represents one book. I have a tracker similar to this one in my current reading journal, and I severely underestimated the number of certain book sizes I read, and I think this style of tracker might be the better choice because this won't get full and it won't need any alterations or additions unless I read more books than there are boxes, which is not likely to happen. Possible, but not likely. For the categories, I have here books under 200 pages, then from 201 to 300, from 301 to 400, and so on in increments of 100 pages, and the last section is for books over 900 pages long. I of course needed to choose colors for these trackers in advance so I could fill in the keys at the bottom. I do not like doing that because I have an unreasonable fear that I will lose some of these markers during the year, or that I will forget which one is used for what. I much prefer choosing one color each month just before I am going to fill in my trackers after the month is over. I will do that for the reading goal tracker and some other ones I will set up later, but that is of course not possible with this style of tracker. It was one of the main obstacles I had to get over when deciding if I want to have these trackers in my reading journal. Yes, I am that paranoid about losing a marker, but I can still get a new one. As for not remembering which marker was used for what, I am writing a color number under each mini box in the key. I am also using only Tombow markers, so I would know where to look for them. I bought a few of them recently with this reading journal in mind, so I have many colors that fit the theme. This whole spread took 40 minutes to set up, and most of this time was spent on drawing all the boxes, of course. Next 2 pages are for 2 more trackers. I will do the same layout in here, so the washi tape on the top and most of the stationery will be in the corners and around the edges. One new thing I'm using this time is this black and white washi tape with written text. I love using it because it adds interesting element to the page without it being too distracting. The witch sticker I put on top of it is transparent, which was maybe not the best choice, but I don't mind. This is again sticker sheet made by Marigona Sully, but I got it from Sticky Club, I think in one of their subscriptions, and it might be the first Marigona Sully stationery I have ever had, and it all went crazy from there, as you can see by the stationery choices in this setup. On the left side is the tracker for the year when the books were published. At first I was considering to have some kind of bar graph in here, but when I came up with the idea of this style of tracker, I decided to use it for the years published as well. And that way I ended up with 4 trackers of the same style, which worked out perfectly, and that makes me really happy. Even though these spreads take a long time to outline, they look so good. I am really happy I took the time to make them, and that I even decided to make them. For the categories, I started with bigger time frames since I do not read that many older books, and there are smaller time sections for recent years. The first category is for books published before 1900. The next one is for books published between 1901 and 1950. Then from 1951 to 2000. Next one is shorter time frame, and that is from 2001 to 2010. Then 2011 to 2015. Next one is 2016 to 2020. And then, because I really did not want to have many more categories and I did not want to have to worry about losing even more markers, I grouped years 2021, 22 and 23 into one section, and then each of the years 2024, 2025 and 2026 has a separate category, because it is more interesting for me to see how recent books I am reading, whereas for the older books I just want to see if I read a book from, let's say, 50s, instead of knowing which exact year was the book published. On the right side, as you can guess from the title, I will be tracking books by rating. I just wanted an excuse to color in more boxes, guys, okay? The categories will be the same as they are in my statistics table, and that is DNF, then 1 star, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, then I have 4.75, and finally a 5 star. I rarely DNF books, but I am sure that if there was no DNF section, I would need it. On this spread, I am of course using the same colors as I did in the previous trackers. This spread took me roughly 45 minutes to finish. I guess it took slightly longer because I really got tired drawing in all these boxes. After I finished all 4 of these, I went in and counted all boxes for each of the trackers, and I don't know how, but I managed to have exactly 88 boxes for 3 of these trackers. I can't tell you how, this just happened. The only outlier was the genre tracker with 94 boxes, but I sneakily put a sticker over some of the boxes and it fits so perfectly that it covered 6 boxes. So now I have the same number of boxes on each page. Honestly, guys, I did not even dream of this happening. We are going to change the scenery on the next spread because even when I am using one of the cloud washi tapes I have used on almost every single spread so far, the rest of the stationery will be quite different. I have this amazing sticker sheet called Regency Era made by Izabova, and I think it fits perfectly with the classics because the left page is here for me to glue in covers of classics I will read during the year, and on the right side I have the same page but for non-fiction books. I wanted these 2 pages to match in decoration, so I chose the lady in puffy dress from the Rococo sticker sheet to put on the right side. You will see that one in a bit. It is not giving non-fiction vibes, but if I stretch it, she might look like someone from history and I might read a historical fiction. Who knows what will happen. I put a bunch of flowers all around these 2 pages, and this PET tape from the washi tape shop fits almost perfectly with the colors of those stickers. And it all kind of matches the overall vibe of this journal setup. Since I don't usually read lots of classics nor non-fiction books, I am marking a bigger space here for the book covers. It is 6 by 10 squares, and under each of these brackets I am putting a blank 5-star sticker. These are the ones I originally bought for the books read spread, and you can see these are huge. I would have to allocate at least 10 pages for the books read section if I was to use these stickers, but they won't go to waste. I am planning on using them in my book review pages. I stopped adding star ratings in there because I could not be bothered with drawing them. My stars always look disastrous, and I don't really enjoy the blank 5-star stamp I have because it says rating on top, and I don't really like that. I was even thinking about cutting that part off. Anyway, this is the Rococo sheet I was talking about, and this right page will be as over-decorated as the left one is. I really went overboard in here, but there is a possibility I won't read any non-fictions or classics, so these pages might look exactly the same at the end of the year, and I don't want them to look blank, which they certainly aren't now. I do hope seeing these 2 pages will remind me that classics and non-fiction exist, and I might be choosing those more often to read. Both of these pages took me roughly 17 minutes each to finish. Flipping to the next spread, a series tracker. In here I am using lots of blue colors because there is not enough blue in this whole setup. I have the most adorable stamp style washi tape I finally want to use. The design is vertical, and that is not my go-to style for decoration. I love putting all of my washi tapes on top and bottom, and the stickers in the corners, if you have not noticed that already. So I needed to find a spread where vertical decoration would look nice, and what better spread than series tracker, since I can make the table as wide or as narrow as I please. I of course put the cloud washi tape on top and bottom of the spread. It looks so good already. And then I added this stamp washi tape. It has books, it has dragons, it has fairies, it is adorable. It is again from Marigona Sully. I will of course link everything I used in this journal setup in the description below, but I simply might put entire Marigona's store in there because I'm using so much of her stuff in here. The stationery from all other shops and artists is linked there as well, of course. With the washi tapes in place, I can now draw the table. It is very simple, very straightforward. It is a rectangle with a tiny additional section on the right. And that's about it. On top of the table, I marked small squares for swatching the color of the month. It will be the same one as in the reading goal tracker, but for me, for not having to flip to the beginning of this journal to reference the color, I put the key in here as well. And it adds a bit of interest to this otherwise boring table. In my current series tracker, I use the same marker for the whole year, and I thought it would be nice to change things up a bit next year, and using a different marker for each month, I will be able to see maybe in which months I read the most sequels or when I started most new series. It will be fun. I found the corners quite bland after I put the tape along the edges. That's why I am adding yet another washi tape in here. This one works perfectly as a long design, but there are small gaps in between these stacks of books that let me cut this design up and use only parts of it. I cut off 4 sections and I put 1 book stack in each corner. Space next to the title felt blank and sad, so I put yet another blue tape in there. Yes, I love blue, if you couldn't tell. And now it is time to fill in this table. This is my current series tracker, and I am not going to rewrite here every single unfinished series because some of them I am not keen to continue, and some I might even finish this year. So this is just a small representation of how this tracker will look. I write the series name and the author's name in here because sometimes the series names are a bit confusing to me, and having the author there helps a lot. I also put in very faint second line highlights in here in pink. I would have used a blue marker, but I do not own a pale enough blue one to do so, and there is pink in the washi tapes I have used on this page, so it kind of matches. Lastly, I am drawing in the actual tracking section of this spread. Tracker starts on the right side of each table, and then I extend it to the left based on how many books there are in the series. Depending on the length of the series title, I can fit 15 or 16 books long series in here, which I think is quite enough. I am going in with the black marker to color in books read before 2026, and the dots in the middle of some squares represent novellas or those point-half books you have in some series. And that's it for the series tracker. Setting up of this spread took 16 minutes, and then I spent another 16 filling it in with all the series. Next is a spread I have in my current reading journal, but it will go through a big transformation, and that is Read My Shelf spread, where I will write down every single physical book I own and I have not read yet, including both books I bought or I will buy myself, as well as books gifted to me. For this spread, I am again needing a Dutch door since I need a lot of space. As a decoration, I am using these plant witches. I love how they look, and these stickers are long and skinny, so while they bring a lot of color to the pages, they won't use up too much space. Of course, a washi tape or two can't miss on the top and bottom of the spread. I again printed multiple color variations of this title, so I could choose the best one based on the stationery. I did plan which stickers and washi tapes I'd like to use for each page, but sometimes I completely change it just before starting to work on the page, and that's where the different title variations came in handy. I put all these cute witches in, and I loved that there were 4 on this sticker sheet, so I could put 1 in each corner. And I also like that 2 of them are looking to the right and 2 to the left, because I like to have the character stickers looking into the journal, if that makes sense. I don't do that much with the cover pages, but when it is this inside decoration, I just love when characters are looking inside as if to see what is going on in there. What is going to be different about next year's layout is that I am going to add a book cover in here for every book I will have read. I want to trick my brain into reading more of my TBR this way because I so love adding book covers into my spreads and trackers. Not that I do not want to read books I own, but there seems to be always something else to read, and physical books take me so much longer than audiobooks. The size of these brackets is 4x6 squares, same as I have for the books read spread, so it will be easier for me to print the covers at the end of each month since there is only one size for almost everything. In my current journal, I need to prepare and print at least 4 or 5 differently sized book covers, and that's why I am making it easier for my future self. With all brackets done, I have a space for 98 books on these 2 spreads, and I am going to write in them in pencil all unread books I currently own. I might go over these with pen later. That would certainly look so much better, but there are some books I might read by the end of 2025. There is no particular order in which I am writing them down. I am simply copying the list in my current journal. It is a simple list with a space to check off when I finish the book, and to be honest, it is very uninspiring, and I am a very visual person, so I am not even inclined to look at that list. This one, on the other hand, I feel like it will motivate me to read more from my shelves, just so I can keep adding book covers to this spread. There are exactly 40 spaces left blank, which is more than enough. I have bought 22 physical books this year so far, and some of them were books I have already read as audiobooks, and I like them so much I wanted to have a physical copy as well. So yes, I think 40 is a reasonable number to have available, and if there will be some space left blank at the bottom of the spread, it won't bother me at all. You can never, or I can never predict how much space I will need. Okay, all of these 4 pages together took 26 minutes to prepare, and then I spent 7 or so minutes writing in all of the book titles. We are on to the last 2 spreads for today, guys. I planned to have these at the end of the whole setup, but then I have realized it makes sense to have these right after the TBR bookshelf, because in these spreads there will be all the other books I technically own. And I am saying technically here because last spread will be for Audible purchases. Yeah, I know. And the one I am working on right now is for all of my Libro FM purchases. I am in constant search for a way to get hold of audiobooks, since that is the main format I consume my books in. It just works the best with my lifestyle right now, but audiobooks are so pricey. I had to always depend on Audible because there was no other way for me to get audiobooks. Before you say libraries, first of all, libraries here barely have enough books that I would be interested in reading, and audiobooks are not a thing in libraries in Slovakia. It is getting slightly better. I am keeping an eye out for that, but there are only few libraries who work with an app that lends you audiobooks, and the selection is sadly not for me. I keep looking at those over and over, but it is a struggle, especially when I want to read books in English. That is maybe like 10% of all books available, and I get it. We are in Slovakia. Of course, I want people here to be able to read books in our native language. But I started reading in English because there was always a long time for the translations to appear, if ever. And let's be honest, translation always takes something out of the story. So that's why I keep looking for English books, or better said, books written in their native language. And that's why I am failing. Also, literacy is not something our current government cares about, and libraries are the last thing on their agenda, so the whole thing sits on librarians' shoulders, and they have to deal with so much already. But I have to say this again, I keep checking all libraries around me to see if anything changes. That brings me to Libby, favorite app of the whole world, except it does not work with Slovak libraries, so it is not an option. Unless I go to Austria or Germany and get a library card there, but why would they let me do that when I am not the resident there? Many sites or apps are simply not available here. Believe me, I looked into them all. Not even Spotify made audiobooks available in Slovakia yet. I have tried Everend, but I hated how they kept erasing books while I was reading them just so I would buy the subscription for another month. So I gave up on that platform. There is also BookBeat. I have not tried that one yet, and a month or two ago I found Libro FM. And I have to say I like it so far. Monthly subscription is cheaper than on Audible. You get to keep the books you purchased and you are supporting real bookshops. Slovakia again is not participating in this, but the Libro FM let me choose any bookstore I wanted, no matter if I was a resident in that country or not, which I am so thankful for. I was able to find almost every audiobook I was looking for, which honestly I did not expect. Not many people talk about this platform, at least I have not heard about it. So if you listen to lots of audiobooks and you want to support indie bookstores while doing so, there is a link to their site in the description. It is a referral link, so if you click on that and decide to start a subscription, I do get 1 free credit. But you of course do not have to. You can type libro.fm to your web browser and you will easily find it. I just wanted to be transparent with you. They offer this to everyone, I think, so when you start a membership, you can then share your code with everyone as well. I want to slowly move away from Audible, but I do think I will need to still use it in some capacity in 2026. That's why I am making the same spread for Audible purchases on the next page. I also want to look into US libraries that lend you ebooks and audiobooks no matter where you are in the world. After paying a yearly fee, of course, that is totally understandable. But with how the US is doing right now, or the world as a whole, I feel like I want to wait a bit longer to see if that will even be a possibility in the future. And I also want to look into ARCs, but I did not do much of research on that yet. So if you struggled with getting hold of audiobooks because of where you live or because of their price and you have found something that works, please let all of us know in the comments. There is a good chance I already looked into that, but who knows, hope dies last, right? Both of these spreads took me roughly 15 minutes to set up and they look the same as my TBR bookshelf, and that is because I will track my books here the same way. I will write down every audiobook and when I will have read it, I will add its book cover in here. I did not add star rating stickers on these because they will be rated in the books read spreads at the beginning of this journal. So this is just like a visual representation of what books I have read from which platform. I have finished 45 audiobooks this year so far, so there should be plenty of space on these spreads. And with that, we reach the end of part 1 of my 2026 reading journal setup. Yes, there is more to come. I am aiming to release part 2 next week, so you won't need to wait long. Let's go and look at everything I have made today. There are 26 pages already set up. 26, oh boy. And there are at least 20 more to be made. Yes, I went crazy this year, but honestly, I can't wait to start filling all of these pages up. It is my favorite thing to do. This video is already way too long and it took me a very long time to even get to this stage. This is 6 hours of footage, 6 hours of me standing next to my desk and putting stationery on paper. I love doing this, but I do need a break. And I am saying this only for you to understand that these things take time, more time than you think they would. So if your setup is taking you a long time as well, no matter how elaborate or how simple, don't worry about it. You are not alone. It is just the way it is. I want to say this again, you do not need any of these layouts in your reading journals, if you even need a reading journal, but if you do have one, I hope you got inspired and that your time with me was well spent. You probably already have quite a few similar pages in your journals, so let me know what your current favorite spread is. There are still many pages I need to set up, about which I am as excited as about those I made in this video, and I hope you will join me here next week for the part 2. If it is already released when you are watching this video, it is linked right here in the top right corner. If not, it will be there shortly. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Have absolutely a lovely day and I will see you in the next one. Bye.